Hello, welcome to Elise and Our Books. Today I've got my May TBR. I've got quite a few books that I'm planning on reading in May. I've got some fantasy, I've got some classics, I've got some graphic novels, a bit of everything, so I'll just get into it. The first book that I'm looking forward to reading is A Court of Mist and Fury. I'm already a third of the way through this. I'm hoping I'll finish it by Tuesday the 2nd, which is in 2 days' time, because I've ordered A Court of Wings and Fury, I think it's called, from Waterstones, and I'm hoping to just go straight from one to the other, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm loving this, so hopefully the third one will be just as good. Next, I've got some books to do with the holiday I'm going on. I'm going to Haworth. I go every May for my birthday. Haworth is the village that the Bronte sisters grew up in. I absolutely love going there. They've got the moorlands, which just amazing walks on the Yorkshire moors. And they've got the Bronte parsonage, which is where they grew up, and it's just a lovely little village to visit. And anyway, I've got 3 Bronte sister books that I still haven't read yet. The first one is a Villette, which I'm planning on reading. This is actually thought by many to be Charlotte Bronte's best work. It's about a lady called Lucy Snow. Lucy falls on hard times. She becomes orphaned and she has no money, and so she travels to France and she becomes a teacher in a girls' school over there. Whilst in France, she falls in love twice, and it's a book about self-discovery, if anything, and it's thought to be semi-autobiographical. It's thought to be slightly reflective of Charlotte's own experiences, so it's one I'm really looking forward to. Next, I've got this Everyman's Library bind-up of 2 of Charlotte Bronte's books, which is Shirley and the Professor. These are the final 2 that I haven't read. These 2 are very contrasting stories. So the first one, which I'll talk about, is The Professor. The Professor was a book that actually Charlotte, I think, really struggled to get published. If I'm right, it was around the same time as Emily was publishing Wuthering Heights and Anne was publishing Agnes Grey. Charlotte tried to publish The Professor and no publishing house were interested. They just didn't want anything to do with The Professor. But once she died, it got published. The Professor is about a man called William Crimsworth. He's an orphan gentleman who decides to travel to Brussels for a better life. It concentrates on the freedom of men, because at the time women were so oppressed, and the Professor really concentrates on how free men were, how they could do anything, how they could have sexual encounters without a second thought and have no consequences, and they had such freedom. And yet women had to constantly think about their social standing and what people would think of them and so on. The next book, Shirley, is about 2 separate female characters. First of which is Caroline Helstone. She's trapped in an oppressive vicarage in Yorkshire, which is actually very reminiscent of Charlotte's own life. And then the second character is the complete opposite. She's called Shirley Kilder. She inherits a fortune and an estate, and it just gives her freedom to live life the way she wants. Next, I've got Hikuchan in Bronte Country. This is a book I bought at the Bronte parsonage last year. I actually got the stamp that they put in all of their books in there. This is about a girl, Yuku, whose mother died 10 years previous, under mysterious circumstances, and she stays with her sister for a while, but then she runs away from her sisters. She must have an argument or something, I don't know, and she goes to Haworth, which was the last place that her mother visited, and she starts to look into her family's history and the secrets in her family and into her mother's mysterious death. And all the while she's kind of submerged in the Bronte sisters, because it's the area that they grew up in, and it makes her reflect on her own relationship with her sister. So hopefully it'll be a book that I really enjoy. And the last Haworth related book is one called The Little Tea Shop of Lost and Found. Now this is a book about a woman, when she was a little baby she was found on the Yorkshire moors right beside Haworth, and she was adopted, but the family that adopted her then kind of reject her, and she feels that there's nowhere where she feels accepted. The only thing that gives her comfort at all is baking, and so she decides to return to Haworth, and she buys into a kind of failing tea shop and she just brings it to life and makes it a success. I would also like to read Saga Volume 4, because that's where I'm at with this series, and also I'd like to read Rat Queens. I'd like to read this because 3 booktubers, G from Book Roast, Taylor from Book and Flicks Taylor, and then Clara from Clara Reads Books. They're doing a collab. They're calling it an online party, where every month they either read a graphic novel, a book, they watch a series from Netflix or something, and they talk about it together. And this is their first month, and they're doing Rat Queens, so I'd like to take part in that too. The next 2 books I'd like to read is A Gathering of Shadows and A Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. Last month I read A Darker Shade of Magic, absolutely loved it. I gave that one a 5 out of 5 stars. It was just incredible. So I'd like to finish the trilogy in May. The last book I'd like to read is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This has been on my shelf for far too long. I've got the entire trilogy, so if for whatever reason I happen to read all of these books, I can always continue on with this trilogy. This is about a society that's colour-coded in the future, and our main character is called Darrow, and he's a Red, and Reds spend their time working, trying to make Mars's surface habitable for people in the future. So he thinks he's helping his children and so on by doing this. But then he finds out that actually it's been habitable this whole time, and that there's like cities and so on Mars, and that he and the Reds are just being treated like slaves. Sounds pretty good. I do like a sci-fi, so it should be good. So they're all the books that I'm planning on reading in May. What are you planning on reading? Please comment down below. Also, please note that the previous Instagram that I linked to this channel, it got hacked. So I've got a new one, so if you want to subscribe to that instead of the old one, please do. I hope you're enjoying what you're reading, and I'll see you soon. Bye.